Hello everyone, welcome back once again to Bloodbowl Live, here to go over all of the action yet again from the last week of the ADBBL. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting us to have a roundup this week, but we got all four quarterfinals in nice and quickly. Some results went very well, some results didn't, and we will go over all of them. I'm joined this week by my roundup regular Scott. Scott, how are you today? What's in your mug?
Evening, Christopher. I am doing well, thank you. Evening, sports fans. We have a cup of finest English brew in the delightful Blood Bowl mug. More on that later.
Wonderful. We're joined by previous Roundup guest Phil. Phil, have you got a mug in front of you? What's in that?
I got a mug
Beautiful, beautiful.
full of hot chocolate.
Oh man, that's a good shout. To be fair. And this week we are joined by semi-finalist Tom of the Castlevania Bloodthirsters. Tom, I appreciate you don't have a mug in front of you, but it will be on its way.
It'll be soon.
It'll be there soon. Thank you very much for coming along and allowing us to have somebody discussing a successful quarterfinal, so it's not just a therapy session for me. We'll dive straight in. Let's go straight into our games. Oh no, we won't. No, I have other things to go over first. I'm getting ahead of myself already. First things first is just to mention the Just Giving page. We went over the £500 mark in the last week, which is a fantastic effort from everyone. A huge thank you to anyone who has done something, offered something, donated something, anything that you've done. If you've bought something that's meant money's gone into it, anything at all, thank you so much. I did not think we would get to that 500. It was just an idle number plucked out of the sky, and the fact we've got there is really really great, so huge thank you to everyone on that. Also want to just mention the Blood Rush 7s. We've had a lot of 7s games going on this week. More and more people getting knocked out, more and more people playing 7s. So we've got lots of games going on. And we're, Sevens, if you've not played it, it's a really good kind of entry level form of Blood Bowl, and it's quite chaotic, and you can do some really fun stuff. It's really good fun. So it would encourage anyone who wants to play to get in touch, and we'll find you an opponent to get some games in. That's the bits from me. I will pass over to Scott for, and I'm more excited by this than going over the games, for Scott's merch update. Scott,
Come on.
Yeah, it's some sort of poor man Joe Ratner for the people who know those phrases. So 500 quid, guys, ridiculously good amount. We could all give ourselves a real big round of applause, pat on the back, and a well done for that. However, we are a very good community. We can do better. £500 is good. We can push on. There are a few limited number of mugs, as I'm sure everybody will model. So you yourself can be like Phil. You can be like Tom. You can be a successful Blood Bowl semi-finalist like Tom if you get your hands on one of these mugs, allegedly. So how, once again, do you get hold of one of these fine piece of quality merchandise? Two ways. One, you come on and you talk dribble, witter, say whatever you want. Bit of spice, bit of salt, who knows, on this show. Secondly, make a donation. It does have a significant and a big real impact. So get out there and do it. A couple of questions we had last week, actually in-store and direct, after I did the disclaimer. Just to clarify a few things, which we had a few conversations about those legal people. If your hands do turn green, nothing to do with us. Question as well, those for that person who did ask me about, yes, WD-40 may work, can't guarantee it. Give me a shout and let me know the results and how that goes. But more importantly, be like Tom. Take your mug, look at other people, and when you do, tell them, this is my A&D Blood Bowl mug live. There are others like it, but this one is mine. My A&D BBL live mug is my best friend. It is my life. I must master it as I master my tackle zone. Without my mug, my life is useless. Without my mug, my life is useless. Yeah, so be it. Before I go on down that, this is what you need to look at, boys and girls. If you want street cred, improved relationships with the opposite sex of your choice, sophistication. If you want people to look at you in the street and know you're this kind of guy, this is what you need. The catalog, yeah, it'll be out in due course. What else we're going to do? Anything basically we can stick a label, We will do that.
I mean,
Good evening,
I,
JD. Oh, look at even chat just saying how great these mugs are. Thank you, JD.
I look
God
forward.
bless.
I look forward to Scott's Corner now more than I look
Yeah.
forward to anything else in this roundup. I absolutely do.
I'm curious on the suggestions of merchandise you're about to get in.
Yeah, I mean, on a serious point on that, if there is something merch-wise that people would like to have, tell someone, and we'll see. You know, if we can do it, we'll do it. So I know that Shop Scott is open to much merchandise. Sums. Looking in the comments, JD, no,
Yeah.
nope,
As-
nope. Elliot, yes, maybe. JD,
Well done, JD,
absolutely
well
not.
done.
I think we should hoodies. I think hoodies would be a good one.
I'm with JD on that one.
Hoodies is a good shout as well. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on quickly, shall we? And we'll move on to the first game that we had, the first semi-final. Well, actually, I can't remember if it was the first one we had. It's not the first one we had. We're going to go in the order that Tourplay has them here. We're not going to necessarily go in the order that they were played, because that's just easier for me to click through. So we're going to the Scale Marys versus the Bitey Ducks. Fair to say, looking at the scoreline, Ducks didn't show up and Scale Marys played very well. In the way that I've done for all the other games, I will sit back and allow questions from you three. Scott, you go first.
Very simple, Chris. What happened? You blamed the dice. You know, but first of all, just a shout out before we do go down the ridicule route. No, quite. Big effort to all 8 coaches. Some of the, these matches were fantastic. They really, really were. They had everything. So first of all, we shout out, well done to all coaches. Yes, in these quarterfinals, yes, in the rest of the season, but especially the last 8 that we've got as well. So there were conversations beforehand then, Chris, you weren't too sure. Were you going to drop your Crocs? Were you going to drop a skink? Hello, Emily. What were you going to do in terms of something different maybe against Dave and his Lizards? So did you just in the end decide not to go with it? What was you thinking before match?
No, I didn't make any changes. I thought if I made a change, I would probably end up doing something against what I've done throughout the rest of the season. So that felt silly. I honestly, I could, it'd be very easy to blame the dice, and I did have some. I did get burned through my rerolls very quickly, and had some unfortunate rolls. And Dave had first kickoff event was a blitz, and he was under the ball on turn 1, so it was uphill from the off. But I can only blame the dice so much, and if I'm being completely honest, me as a coach, I think, didn't turn up and let frustration get on top of me, and it was game over. I don't think, and I don't want to take anything away from Dave, because if you're playing against someone and they completely collapse and you're not in the right place and you're not doing the right things, there's still no guarantee you're going to come out of it well. If you are in the right place and you are doing the right things and you are doing what you're playing well, then if your opponent collapses, you can get a great result, and Dave got a great result. So he did everything right, and I just wasn't there. I may as well have not been there, and he was good enough to absolutely take advantage of it.
Fair enough. We talked about the difference in the Lizard Men team this year. What's your plans then with the Ducks? Obviously, we know Dave's going to be taking the Scale Marys through. He's got a lot of bash sitting in there as well. What are your plans though moving forward with the Ducks? I know you're not going to be taking them next season. Spoiler alert. Would you come back to them, or are you going to come back to them, or would you make any significant changes in terms of how you play them? What's your thoughts?
If I brought them back, I will make sure I can redraft them if I want to, and if I bring them back, I actually think I might go back to So I feel like I played a bit more kind of traditional lizard this season. Go back 2 seasons where I had the ducks previously, and I was trying to create passes and catches, and I was doing stupid 6-up passes with re-rolls, and I was doing more kind of shenanigans. And I think I think I actually want to go back to that. So when I had them in Cardiff, when I took them to Wales, the thing that kind of turned my fortune around was, oh, screw it, I'm going to go for this double rush, handoff, double rush, 6-up pass, catch, run in, score. And that stuff worked, and it was way more fun. And I think that's kind of, that also leans more into the whole Mighty Ducks, Bitey Ducks theme. So I think actually I will, if I bring them back, I don't think I will play them how every video on YouTube will tell you how to play lizards. I think I'll go stupid with it and have as much fun, if I'm honest. I think that's probably what will happen.
So you're going to turn your lizard men into some sort of Skaven-esque, nimble, dodging, just minimal amount of, sauruses and no crocs, and just have all skinks and chameleons.
Not quite like that, but I do want to go back. I want to do I want to be more flumps. I want to bring the lizards to the table, and your opponent goes, well, this guy doesn't play these like lizards. I've got no idea what's about to happen. That's what I want.
Full team of skinks.
Now, a full skink team and a Croxagore, because I've seen builds where people do that and count it as a stunty team, and I'd love to try it. Well, that would be amazing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll take a season or maybe 2 seasons off. Definitely 1 season off, but I think we'll be in some tournaments this year with them because they're my first and my one true love, so they're gonna come back. Phil, any questions you've got?
But when it came to the start of the game, did you sort of set up quite similar? Or because I noticed at the sort of beginning of the season in the group stages, the 3 lizard teams we had going all started off very different. You were very agile. You had the yolks that are very heavy, and then you had the reptile dysfunction who was a bit of both, tried to mix it up. But looking at what your teams ended up, you both had sort of similar people available to play. Did you try and set up like for like, or did you try and something different on the pitch?
I didn't try and meet him strength for strength because he's got a lot more block and mighty blow, and he's got block, mighty blow, and guard on that front line. If I line up the same as him, he's getting 2 dice blocks with block across the board, and it's not going to work. So I set up to have, I think I could set up that I had maybe 1 person in base contact, everyone else wasn't, and that was the downfall because I didn't position the other. I positioned very aggressively so that if I succeeded on the pickup and if it wasn't a blitz kickoff event, I would have the ball in a 4/5 strong Saurus cage deep into his half. That was the plan, but I mean, like anyone who's done wide flanks with any team, as soon as you get a blitz kickoff event, if you're positioned poorly, you get annihilated and you're then on the back foot and it doesn't work. And I've done it so many times. I've done it more. It's worked for me more often than it's failed, which I think is now the downfall of it because I'm almost overconfident in it, and I'm now paying for it, and the kind of it's leveling out. So yeah, no, I had no intention of meeting him strength for strength, and it meant the problem is it meant that the downside of that is he's got a bunch of very, very strong, very, very good players who can come in and he can just swamp them and move them around because none of them are in tackle zones, and then it's uphill from there if it fails, and it failed, and he countered it phenomenally. So, Tom, anything from you?
Oh, I mean,
be brutal. Be brutal. I feel like I've asked. If you were the other Tom, I'd asked him such horrible questions this season when he'd lost games. I feel like I deserve it.
How did it feel when the 3rd touchdown came in? How did that feel? Because I was distraught when Rich scored against me for the 1st touchdown. So that was just oh my god.
I think at 2-0, I was my head wasn't in the game, and I felt, but I thought if I just do the basics, I can come back. At 3-0, I was like, right, well, let's get some consolidation. Let's try and do something. Um, yeah, 3-0. It was like, yeah, this is game over. Like, I hadn't scored quick enough for it to not be game over anyway. But yeah, I think in my mind I'd gone already. I think probably at 2-0 I'd gone. I'd lost the plot. I was not. I wasn't with it. And nothing was going to work. So
I've got a question then for Phil and Tom, guys. We've seen, two quarter-finalist Lizard teams this year. We had Reptile Dysfunction, who did well last year as well. Are these something which appeal to you as a future team that you'd consider running, or are you just thinking, no, based on the woeful performance from Chris in the quarterfinals, I'm just giving that all hope? What's your opinion?
I'll go first. I mean, I've played them before. I think I played them in season 2 or season 3, and in that point, I didn't really know what I was doing with them. But I saw how fast they were. Their baseline stats are really good, having big movement 6, strength 4s. The only thing that really puts me off them is just the fact that they have no skills on their big guys or on their Sauruses. So it's a lot of rerolls you got to go with. Usually I'd probably go with a team like Vampires. I went with 4, so I'll probably go with 3 with Lizard Men, because if you're out of rerolls and you're not getting lucky with Lizard Men, they are just tragic, because it just feels like you can't do anything with them because you've just got no block. You've got dodge. If the dodge reroll fails, it's horrible.
I'm glad you're back. I thought, sorry, fella. I thought we'd upset Chris, and he had to go for a bit of a week. Sorry, Chris.
So I had to represent. Phil. Sorry.
Oh well, I played Dave last season because he was in my knockout group. He beat me 2-1, I think, in the first game, and then I beat him 3-2 in the final game. And like Tom was saying, the big guys at the start, they don't have anything. They're there. You just build a sort of a wall with them, and there's not much you can do with them until you've skilled them up and given them something else to do. So you're sort of relying on that dodging and stunty movement from the lineman to begin with until you can upgrade the team. So, I mean, I have a Lizard team in the process of being painted. Whether I'll use them or when I'll use them, I don't know. But like I say, it's a team you have to think sort of on the long run, because you're relying on your little guys a lot at the beginning. And if you come across the wrong teams, they could sort of just wipe you out straight away. And like I say, you just got big guys sort of standing there. Yes, they've got strength, but nothing else for them. And you're just sort of chasing the game.
We'll move on to the next game now, but what I will say, and I want to shout this out because I think it's really important for kind of what we've been pushing all season, is I was walking back home from this game, and for multiple reasons, for having a generally sort of quite bad week, and for multiple reasons outside of the fact that I'd just been annihilated, I was in a really foul mood on the way home, and I got and I'm not going to name them, but I got a message from a coach in the league who clocked on to the fact that I was maybe in a bad mood for more reasons than just being destroyed, and he was just checking in to make sure that I was alright. And I felt so much better after that, just because I'd got that message rather than anything else. And it sort of put a 4-0 destruction into perspective. So I just want to shout out that we've got such a great group of coaches, and something as little as that was really, really appreciated. So we'll go on to the next game. We will go on to one of 3 games that went to extra time, Buffalo Biggins versus the Wordhollow Wanderers. And it was not surprised at all that this went to extra time, because Simon, with this Word Hollow Wanderers team, with this Underworld team, has really kind of built and worked on something and plays in a way that he can punish you so quickly for anything. And he knows how to, even when he's down on players, he knows how to punish you very, very quickly with this team. So it didn't surprise me that Harrison would have a bit of an uphill kind of battle here. Scott, we'll come to you first. I not surprised it was tight, and you've got two coaches both on an incredible run, but I think probably Harrison's run up to this point gave him the edge, and that's what kind of counted in the end.
I think, well, this was a great match, and one thing we talked about on last week's chat was the fact that Simon posed a different set of questions to Harrison. Yeah, you look at Simon, he's got a lot of small guys, he's got a lot of stunty, he's got that, he's got everybody's favourite gutter runner, Snooze Skitter, who can basically, he's got movement 12 with his sprint and everything. And as long as he gets in your half in possession, there's a chance he's going to score, and he proved that. So one thing we talked about was, how would Harrison cope with that different style play that he'd been playing up to date? He'd been playing a lot of vampires, more heavier, more punchy, in your face teams. He was playing these guys, and then we said it'd be interesting from Simon's perspective, because he lost his Roger. In terms of inducements, he took a bona fide big guy, try saying that after a tea in these mugs, and then also a stunty superstar. So it's really interesting. So when watching this one play out as well, in terms of Snooch scoring really fast. So the one thing that really impressed me was the fact that you never got the sense Harrison was panicking. You always felt the sense that, he knew he had, control of it at times as well. So even when, he did come back, went 1-0 down, then he went, it was, 2-1 in terms of the score. So for him to get the ball, sorry, 2-0 down actually, wasn't it? Or was it 2-0 or 2-1?
No. It was a turn 8 touchdown from Harrison, and then a one-turn turn 8 touchdown from Simon.
Yes, turn around quicker. And then, Simon was seemed to be holding out. A lot of fouls coming through, few injuries, particularly, on his stunty superstar and other places. So when it went to 2-2 on turn 16 from Harrison, and then it just went, and people sent the screenshot in onto Discord of what it was looking like. And then as soon as Harrison got the ball, you felt this is going to be a grind. But it's Harrison was just going up that pitch, whatever it was thrown at him by Simon. And the fact that Simon threw Snooch Skitter in his star gutter runner for a foul, in overtime, just says he was going out for everything he could do, So again, for me, it just shows another level of maturity and development for Harrison as a coach, and he is really playing his Orcs exceptionally well.
Tom, you're no stranger to Harrison and how he plays, and having played against him a number of times. He, after last season's wooden spoon, are you surprised at how far he's got this season, or has he just found a team that suits him?
To be honest, I'm not at all surprised that he's gotten this far. I know how good he is, and I know how unlucky he is. His luck is horrible, but it's like this new team playing Orcs and all that, it's really been kicking in for him. I've played a couple friendlies him with my vampires a while ago. I think it was pre-season, and we were both new to both teams, and we were always pretty much drawing every time. So he really got the hang of the team quite fast. And I knew going into the game against Simon, I said to Elliot, the game's going to go 3-2. Either way, it's going to go 3-2, because Simon's gutter runner is it's always going to score. It doesn't matter what game it's in, it's always going to score. It's so good, and it was just basically what I thought the game would come down to, is how Harry played around that. I think he played it really well. I think just what you've got to do is, because Simon, I've played against him before, and he likes that gutter runner. He'll protect that gutter runner with his life. So what you've got to do is just kill everything around it. Because I've only ever managed to get one hit on his gutter runner, and I killed it, then he got APOC'd.
He's definitely it was interesting watching this half unfold and watching the end of the second half, that Simon was almost not interested in. He was down on numbers. Harrison had the numbers on him. He almost wasn't interested in actually trying to equalize. He was just making sure that gutter runner was out of range of anything that can hit it. That's all
Yeah,
he was
yeah, he
doing.
does that. He did that against me too.
So, like, I'm assuming we're going to see this Underworld team again next season, and we're going to see this gutter runner again. But yeah, he was just protecting it. Phil, one thing that I think if I was Harrison in this game, the point in the game that would have hit me kind of mentally the most was holding off and scoring on turn 8 and then the one turn touchdown on turn 8 so you go in level. I feel like that's the bit that would hurt me the most. How would you kind of, like, you work so hard in the first half to aim to go in 1-up, and then a one turn touchdown immediately gets rid of anything that you've done?
I'm not sure the one turn touchdown would have been sort of the annoying bit for me personally. It's the second touchdown that's scored on turn 10 when you've done all that hard work in the first half to, get the first goal, first touchdown. They equalise, fine. You can handle that, someone equalising, but then to go behind again. And that shows how the different mindset that Harrison has this year, because he would go behind last season and his head just dropped. You could see he just, all care about the match when. And he's come back, yes, he got the lead, excitement. He then goes 2-1 down. It's like, anyone would, droop their head, go, great, yeah, fine, did all that hard work and it's disappeared. But he held out. He got another touchdown right at the end of the game to keep going, and then eked it out. I say the second touchdown would have been harder in my opinion on him, but then to come back from it.
Yeah.
I think as it's been established, I am not to comment on Harrison going forward. So we'll leave it as that. I think it was good. It's good to see. It's good to see Harrison go through. It's good to see. We'll get on to Tom's game in a bit. It's good to see Tom. It's good to see. I think we've got a balance in this last 16. We've got. Have we got 2 redrafts and 2 new teams in the last 2 games? And I think that's good as well, because the redrafted teams often look terrifying, and it is a lot more difficult against them. I know you get the inducements to level up, but it's good to see, and it's good to see a not redrafted team go through, and us to have a bit of a balance of kind of the old guard versus the new blood sort of fighting out in the final 4. So we'll go on to the next game. And I'm going to apologise immediately for what's about to happen, which is that I'm going to go on to the next game. I'm going to ask someone a question, and then I attempted to go for a run, and I've got really painful cramp in my foot. So I'm going to go off camera and just start hopping around the kitchen a bit after I've asked this question. The next game is... I'm going to still be able to hear you. I'm going to have my headset on, but I'll try and be quiet. It is the Riotous Rounds versus Castlevania Bloodthirsters. We have Castlevania Bloodthirsters in the room. And Tom, I guess this, to me, watching it, it kind of felt like you were kind of doing everything you needed to. You then got beaten down, you then did it again, you then got beaten down, you then did it again. It kind of felt like at every opportunity you needed to... It always felt like you were coming back, and I don't know if that was... I don't think that necessarily tells the full picture. How did the game go? My cramp's gone, so honest, I'll remain here. But yeah, how did it go?
I mean, going into the game, I was expecting to get, battered because of the amount of block and Mighty Blow and my Armor 8 thralls. I wasn't expecting it that much. It was 4 casualties in the first half, I think, or 3. It was something like that. I was expecting to be able to defend if I kicked, which I did. I was expecting to be able to defend quite well because of Hypnotic Gaze. It's really good to use defensively. But then Nanny just ruined my day. I was like, I bloodlust to pick up the ball. I'm like, okay, I probably should have like bitten a through, but I wasn't in range of one. I was like, okay, he's gonna drop the ball, have no tackle zone. Surely Nani doesn't pick up the ball and pass it and the catch and score. And then Nani picked it up, passed it, caught it, and scored.
It was incredible to watch because it was kind of like, what can't that goat do? Like it was
Yeah.
like, because it did look like at that point you were, like I couldn't tell whether the figure that I was looking at on the board was a thrall or was another vampire, but it looked like you had kind of weathered the storm, got it out free, almost had the opportunity yourself, and then Nani's just like, well, I'm just gonna be a really great thrower.
Literally the goat. Like,
Yeah.
literally the goat. And then as soon as that touchdown came in, I'm like, okay, that's just horrible. And I was like, 1-0 up, really? After that, 1-0 up, I'm 4 casualties down. And I was really mad at that point. And then Rich was like, being really good sportsmanship. He was just like, calm it down, level your heads, just play the game, just telling me to like take a breather, because I was just fuming after that.
Yeah.
And so I did. And then after my touchdown, my casualties started coming in. I was like, vampire, I think it was like a vampire blitzer casualty, like chosen block, and I was like, it's a bit late now. And then I got another casualty, I was like, hold on, it's not that late. And then I got another one, I was like, working with something here. And then it just kept going. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna win this match. And then as soon as it got to extra time, I'm like, okay, whoever the receives is probably gonna win. And then I won the kickoff, and then I won like the extra time roll, and I received, and I was like, I'm in the driver's seat now. I've just got to take it home. And then from that point, I failed 1 bloodlust that half at the start, and I used my reroll to reroll it. And then from that point, I didn't fail another one, and they brung it home, and it was great.
It is when you look at tour play, and you like, I did notice in the second half, it was really annoying that of all of the games that we streamed, this one we had like the audio issues, so we couldn't hear what was going on, but I still had it on my phone in front of me while I was working, and I was still kind of like, I was seeing that the tour play feed of players disappearing and all that happen, so I was still following it, and it was incredible that suddenly, like you say, you were so many casualties down. And then suddenly, chosen blocker Clyde with 2 skills, -1 passing. Roscoe, chosen blocker, missed next game. Beastman runner, missed next game. Iron grip with what it looks like maybe 4 skills, missed next game. Badly hurt, another beastman. Like suddenly, you were just plowing through all of Rich's team. And yeah, it did suddenly turn, because you could. Before the audio cut out, and I really felt your pain. You could hear in your voice the frustration when Rich went in 1-0 up rather than even level, or 1-0 to you. Like you could really hear it. So based on that, it was an incredible turnaround. Scott, any question for Tom here?
Yeah, a couple. Because similarly, obviously, Tom, we've talked about you and your vampire team all season, looking at the other coaches as well, the other players who have, run vampires. We know, and I saw you do a great game against the Hot Spews as well, because on that you had not just your bloodlust, but obviously your foul appearance, and you were probably rolling more dice in one match than most coaches have rolled, for the entire season. So when you were looking at that, of course, you were losing those draws. You were getting into that as well. How close did you ever get close to Nani? Did you get to a point where you thought, I'm going to bloody have that goat? If it goes south, that's the one thing I'm going to carry off the pitch with me today.
Well, I mean, Rich did he did really well protecting her. Like every time he'd blitz, take a couple steps back. So I'd have to if I wanted to hit her, I'd have to put in all the effort just to hit her, which would kind of just throw my game, because then he'd just run past me. So the closest I got was him 2-dicing my Varkheist, getting a double skulls, and then me clawsing its armor and stunning it. That was pretty much the closest I got, because I was just like, I might as well focus all the other players if he's just going to protect that one, because she's good. But if I just get a thrall next to her, she's not going to blitz anything important, because the thralls are just expendable to me.
So if we look at then, so, so you've done an incredible job. As we talk about new team upskilling as well. We'll come on to talk about your quarterfinal and how you're gonna, if you want to share it with the group and the audience and even Elliot, how you're gonna plan to take on these dwarves. Are you going to be taking these guys into season 7? What's your plans for them? Or are you no longer? And where do you want to take this team in terms of skills as well?
I mean, it really depends. I mean, I'll say this now. If I win the whole league, probably won't happen. I'll bring them back. If I don't, I've got a couple ideas of teams I want to play. I was thinking about playing Shambling. They're quite fun. I've liked them a lot. Redrafting Vampires was also a big idea because I think they're just so fun. And maybe redrafted Necromantic or Norse. I like Norse a lot. I think they're quite good. I think I'd do a lot better than what I did last time with them in like season 4, I think it was.
Yeah. So in terms of, if we look at the other vampire players then, when you look at how you've performed, you have been, not trying to blow smoke for anyone on the on the chat, you have been the standout vampire coach by a mile. Yeah, you really have. When you look at the other vampire players, what's the sort of, would you put down to? Have you recognised that you're doing anything different? Is it the fact that you've got a lot of re-rolls in there as well, or are you just looking at them saying, is it just you are a sort of vampire god among simple folk and the others are just rubbish and they're just crap coaches, or is it luck of the dice, or is it something else that
If you come to write a CV in the next however many weeks, and you want to put vampire god among simple folk, I feel like that would catch the attention of any employer.
Well, I mean, I think it just comes down to the different builds. Like obviously the biting bats went for full 6 vampires, which no offense, it's not getting anywhere. It's not. It's not going anywhere. Like, it got to the playoffs, which I was really impressed with, because it's 6 vampires with 2 rerolls, and I was impressed that it got to the playoffs, and I'm applauding for that. But I'm just gonna have a look at Tom Hobble's one. I'm not sure what he went for with skills, because he went with.
I don't think he got as much chance to get skills. Was the problem that I know that Tom's mentioned that he had, is that he struggled to kind of level them up.
Yeah. The one chosen skill that I've seen on his for a runner is Pro, and there's only one problem I have with Pro, and it's just that it's extra dice rolls. I don't like rolling more already than I have, and Pro's for cowards. It's Pro's for cowards. It's as simple as that, really. No offense,
Are you listening? Are you listening, Tom?
Don't fail the bloodlust. It's just that simple. And if you fail it, re-roll it. Why not? They're ridiculous. And I love vampires, they're so fun.
Phil, do you have any questions for Tom?
Mainly playing vampires. You obviously picked them and went in with one mindset of how to play. Have you learned anything about playing as them, and is there anything you'd change about the way you play with them?
Yeah. I mean, what I've realised about them is they're probably one of the most unique teams in the game, just purely because of Hypnotic Gaze. So when you're playing as them, you can either choose to go really offensively or really defensively based on the teams. Like, if you're going against a high-strength team, you play defense, play like your elves, basically, and just try and defend as much as possible. But if you see an opportunity to Hypnotic Gaze and get straight in, then just do it. You just got to send it at that point. But if you're playing against, like, Skaven or Underworld, you've just got to hit things a lot, and you can just go in, Hypnotic Gaze stuff, and hit wherever you want. Because if you get the lucky armor roll of like a casualty or a knockout, you're one player up. Plus you're running vampires, so that's another thing. Like, you've gotten out of the way to get to the cage with Hypnotic Gaze. So you can play either 2 ways, but I haven't really found a middle ground with them yet.
I think a shout out just briefly to Rich and this Rams team that everyone looks at some of these players, Nani in particular, and sees how terrifying they are. And for me, I think he's become one of these coaches in the league that I don't think it matters what he would play. I think I would be terrified to face him, to a point. It's his wood elves were horrendous, were a horrible team to face. His Chaos team is a horrible team to face. But also for kind of how well he's kind of got through, and he's I feel like he's mentioned a few times how he kind of taught or introduced, or there was some element of kind of Blood Bowl for you and Harrison and Elia going forward. The concern I have is that he has now created monsters that he can't kind of contain himself is slightly worrying. You know, he is a terrifying. He creates terrifying teams and he plays very well. Shout out to him for reaching another last day. He's sort of consistently on that run for a few seasons now. So well done to him. I'm going to try my best not to say or do anything to jinx anyone. In my head, I know what I want the final to be, but I'm going to try not to kind of jinx anyone at all. So I'm going to ask you the most kind of punditry question that I can possibly ask you, Tom, which is: Are you concerned that looking at your your playoff runs so far, that you have kind of, I would argue, have somewhat of a reputation of a giant killer based on your previous two? You've just knocked out two really strong teams, and your next game is against Elliot, who we have all said, you know, he's a finalist, and we've all said that he is a terrifying team as well. Is there any pressure on the fact that you just keep facing, you keep getting through, but you keep facing these giants? Is there pressure to kind of continue this run, or are you just going to take it and see what happens?
I mean, when the draft got done, like the playoff draft, I saw Scott and I was like, "Are you serious?" the one team that it completely just annoys my team, and I was like, "Okay." Then I looked at his team. He's got like one block. I'm like, "It's winnable because I've got dodge and vampire, so it's quite hard for them to get hit." And I won that, and I felt really good about it. And then I looked at the quarterfinals, and I was like, "So either way, I'm facing a two-time champion." Really?
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting to win that game, the quarterfinal game. And I'm really happy that I have. And to be honest, now just going into Elliot, I'm just gonna screw with him. Like
Trash
we
ball,
talked about it, yeah. We talked about it today, and both of us think the other one's gonna win, pretty much. That's how our mindsets are going into it. So either way, if I lose or if I win, I'm probably gonna play for third place, I reckon. And I'll be really happy with that. I think third place with vampires is quite really good, to be honest, because it's just a lot to manage with vampires. So I'm quite happy with where I've got so far.
Well, speaking of Elliot, let's go on to the last game, which was Dwarves v Dwarves, Elliot versus Jamie, and I think probably if you look on paper at kind of the performance of these teams, I think actually it was probably as close as it should have been in reality. Jamie's been playing these dwarves. It's his third season. It may be his first playoff appearance, but it is his third season with this dwarf team. Jamie likes dwarves, plays dwarves, and has kind of built a momentum, and he knows them really, really well. Against Elliot, who we all immediately have, since the start of the season after last year, after his first game this season, sorry Phil, I don't mean to bring it up again.
He does.
Immediately, you know, he looks terrifying, but actually, Jamie really gave him a run for his money, took the lead in this game. You've got two teams that will it's a bash fest as to who gets through first. Phil, Jamie made this game maybe I think probably closer than we thought, but actually probably as close as it was always going to be.
Well, they're both teams are very similar. It's that the thing that got me when trying to play earlier is the guard. You couldn't get an advantage anywhere with that, and he just set it up perfectly. But equally, Jamie's got a lot of guard as well, so that would even it out naturally just on the pitch, and it's whoever could get the advantage first, really, was going to be the winner, as far as I could see. Because they're both fairly similar.
I think I know that a few times this season, Elliot's toyed with the idea of the death roller. Never actually kind of gone in for it. I think he almost did, then didn't, changed his mind a bit. You know, I mean, you just need to look at the skills that he's got on this team. Pile driver, mighty blow, guard, grab. That's one player. Mighty blow, multiple block, guard. Stand firm, guard. Mighty blow, stand firm. Mighty blow, guard. And this is not including the block tackle that all of these players come with to begin with. You know, an incredible set of skills, and we know that they're terrifying. But I think you're right that actually you look at the other dwarf team. He's got the death roller that gives him that strength 7 sort of in the middle of the pitch there. But he's been very patient. He hasn't done very randoms. He's chosen guard, block, tackle. He's chosen on his dwarf runner. Chosen mighty blow. Chosen guard. Chosen mighty blow again. Been a lot more patient with the build. Now, Tom, I don't know what your experience with dwarves is, other than possibly playing Elliot. I'm not overly familiar with them. Jamie uses the death roller. He fouls with the death roller a lot. He seems to foul with the death roller until he gets to the point that it is sent off, and that is kind of that's how he plays it. It looks like it lasted, unless it wasn't logged, it looks like it lasted a lot longer in this game. Do you know why Elliot hasn't gone for a big guy in that death roller with that strength 7?
Yeah, I do actually. It's because I told him not to.
Because you okay.
It's because I told him not to. I said, "Don't be stupid. Go get a death roller." And I played against Jamie last season in the group stages of Necromantic, and the death roller, to be honest, death rollers are quite manageable. Like, they're not that bad, especially if you're fouling with it, because then it's just going to get sent off. But if they're only bad when they're just like, if they're receiving, if dwarves receive, they put the death roller on, then they hit everything for like every turn. They just hit something with mighty blow. But if they're fouling with it and they get sent off, then it's just like, oh, okay, you're one player down as dwarves. You move slower than a rock. So like, it's just quite like simple to deal with. But when it's on the pitch and just hitting you, it's quite rough. But it's just, I thought it would give Elliot too much inducements away. I was like, don't take it. It's just not worth it.
Inducement wise in this game, it was Elliot who had the inducements to take. He took an extra brutal blocker for the game. Scott, did you see this being the close affair that it was? I mean, Elliot has for as long as he's played dwarves, I've known him to be good with dwarves. Compared to Jamie, who, if you look at his first season and even in his second season, you can see Jamie's kind of improvement and how he's got to be, very good coach in this. Did you see this being an extra time close game?
Thought it was going to be a close one. And I made the comment in Discord chat watching this one on the live stream that my prediction was what we'd see was a lot of comments on Armor Roll saying, yeah, he's fine, and yeah, that's fine, and he's fine again. And that really felt that the death roller, in terms of how Jamie was playing it, did give him that strength, that extra bit of strength to try and level it up as he was going against Elliot. As Tom said, Elliot was the one who took the brutal blocker, in terms of the inducements as well. And the fact that it got to 1-0, Jamie scored at the end of turn 8, so just at the turn of the half as well. And apart from 2 fouls, there'd been no. So the first casualty wasn't reported until turn 10. And it just felt after that, then it started to creak a bit for Jamie in terms of his team. First of all, he had an injury, badly hurt. Then he had another injury, niggling injury. So the dice rolls, and it felt that the weight and the momentum started to shift to Elliot. And I think when that movement occurred in terms of the play, it just felt after that maybe it was going towards Jamie. But the momentum was going for Elliot against Jamie, but Jamie came back because he actually killed one of the brutal blockers. He took out that extra guy he bought as well. And then obviously Mo Salah, the dwarf runner, the equivalent of Snooch Skitter, the underworld gutter runner, another touchdown, and then all of a sudden, when he got that touchdown, then when it went to overtime, because that was so well managed by Elliot, and that's the thing that's impressed me this season, is the game management. That's been a real strong suit of his. And as soon as it got into the overtime turns as well, very similar to what Tom said about he received the kick against Riotous Rams. As soon as Elliot had received the kick, it just felt that then was, with all due respect to whatever Jamie could do, it did feel like a bit more of a formality of him just going down the pitch. And it felt like when he scored on turn 24, he had planned and managed it to score on turn 24. And that was the really most impressive thing about that.
I think it's interesting, and I think it's actually something that we might discuss for future seasons, is that quite often, if you receive first in overtime, it's your game to lose. And thinking about all of the overtime games that we have had in the last 2 seasons that I can kind of remember, I think I can pick out 2 games that have not gone with the receiver. I think Elliot versus Simon last season. Simon got a 1-turn touchdown. Elliot then got 2 touchdowns to bring it back to 3-2. And the only other one was Elliot versus Tom that went to a roll-off. I don't think any other game has gone against the person who receives the ball. And I think I've heard I've spoken to a few people who have mentioned that the way you do this extra time, actually they do it a different way, in that rather than go to a roll-off, you have to, if you receive, you have to score. If you don't receive, you have to defend. So actually, if you don't concede, you take the victory, because that kind of balances out the fact that it's a third kind of even half.
Would you consider doing just 4 turns each, and then you change, so like a mini half-time event? Because you think about extra time in most sporting events these days, you have 30 minutes. You have 15 minutes each way for football, for example. So, but once you think about that, Chris, sorry, just a question for Tom. Tom, you and whilst we're on overtime, you just said that obviously you received, and when you played Rich, it was a question of receiving. Was your mindset before you rolled the dice that if I have to kick and to Rich and Rich receives, then it's game over?
Not entirely, probably because I still had a reroll left and Rich had none. So
Okay.
I was quite confident with that part. Like, I still had something to, like, if I make a big error, I can just fix it with a reroll. And also, I think at that point, I might have been more players up at like 8 to 6 when it comes to players. So I was like, that plus Hypnotic Gaze,
Yeah.
plus like having 2 blodgers, I could probably manage to at least get the ball, and at worst probably bring it to a roll off, because I would have had more players at that point. Plus I would have been able to break into the cage, because he couldn't really stop me as well, because he doesn't have the players to like pull the tackle zones in to make me do more dice rolls. So I thought I could at least, at worst, if I'd kicked, bring it to a roll off, and at best just scored and made it 2-1 to me. Because vampires are really good at defending. That's like their main strength.
I think it's an interesting kind of dynamic when it goes to extra time, and I think it's always I'm really happy that every extra time game this season has not ended in a roll off, because roll offs are, I mean, Tom, you'll say how cruel a roll off is. So let's have a look at the semi-finals then, because we've got our semi-finalists now. We've got Scale Marys versus the Buffalo Biggins. We've got Castlevania Bloodthirsts versus the Numpties. Now there's the great thing is there's 4 of us on today's show. So that means there's enough of us that I can not give my opinion and therefore not jinx anyone, and I can just allow you guys to do all of the heavy lifting for this bit. So Phil, we'll start with you. If you're looking at these 2 semi-finals and you are picking 2 finalists, what does your head say and what does your heart say?
I mean, my head says for the first one, it's the Scale Marys, but my heart says Harrison, because I just think that'd be nice. As for the other one, I don't know. I kind of want Tom to beat Elliot's ass. But
I
but
wonder
also-
why.
but also
Doesn't everyone?
I want Elliot to win, because it means
Sorry,
I
Elliot, I
lost
know-
6-0 to the winner.
Sorry, Elliot. I know you're watching. We don't. Yeah.
That-
I-
I also want Elliot to win, because that means I lost to the winner.
Okay.
So
Elliot,
that one's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if Elliot, if you want to do some trash typing in chat, feel free.
Scott, what about you?
Agree with Phil in terms of, for me, Dave's got that experience in terms of the Scale Marys, but Harrison is playing so well, and the fact that he came through against Simon, and and as Tom alluded to, his head could have dropped a lot, especially when he went 2-1 down after that return touchdown, but he didn't. So that's a for a coach. So I think Harrison's got nothing to be afraid of. Like Phil Head says, Scale Marys at the moment, and then the other side of the draw, Tom, I'm not going to make any apologies about this. I backed you in the Octo finals against the Hot Speeds on this chat. If people want to go back and listen to the rerun, by all means. I backed you against the Rams, pal, and as a Nixon group, I just think the Vampires are going from strength to strength. So, I'm going to put on what little money I have. I'm going to put them on the Vampires.
Thank you.
Sorry, Elliot. Just
Tom, I know it's tricky
So-
because you are in one of the semi-finals, but what's your dream final? I'm assuming it's you, but
Oh, I mean, everyone's dream final is just me versus Harry. I think that would be a classic final. But my head says it will be Scale Marys versus Elliot, to be honest. But I would love for Harry to get there regardless. I think if Harry gets there, that would be brilliant. I don't mind if I get there or not, because Elliot's that is probably the best team I have seen in this league. Just from the fact that it's randomized, it makes everything half price. Like, his team would normally be like 1.4 mil, and I'd get inducements, but because of the randomizers, it makes it so strong. But yeah, I'd say.
Yourself, aren't you, Tom? Just looking at your
Yeah.
team value.
So I probably, my head would say Scale Marys versus Elliot, and then from there I'd back Elliot to win it, and then my heart says me versus Harry, and then that would be just a great game.
I think I absolutely love the fact that we're going to have a new champion. We're going to have a new champion this season, which is great. We have got, looking at those 4 teams there, we've got four. It hates me to say it because I feel like I'm a young person, but I'm probably not. 4 sort of young coaches in there. We've got Scale Marys. It's only their 2nd season and they've made a semi-final, which is great. It's really good to see as well. So we've got some good kind of like homegrown Aardvark's talent that is leading the way, and none of those 4 coaches have got there quick, like easily either. Like, I feel like they've all had tough games against tough opponents. Numpties have had to take out previous champion James to get there. Harrison has had to take out semi-finalists to get there. Dave stampled his way through some pathetic lizards to get there. Tom, you've had to beat 2 former finalists and a 2-time champion to get there. Everyone's really earned their place in this last 4. And it's a really it's a really interesting kind of group. I'm not looking at those teams and being like, well, of course that team made the final, but they've all really, really deserved their place, and it's really great to see the 4 of them. So I'm not going to give my opinion because I'll get in trouble if it doesn't work out. So we're just going to move briefly on. That's the semi-finals gone over. Let's call it a day there. We're at 7:30. That's a good hour. We're good. Thank you very much, Scott, for being here as always. Huge thank you to Phil and to Tom for joining us this time. Good luck to all of our 4 semi-finalists. It's going to be some great games. The games will be played whenever they're played. We'll try and bring you as many of them as possible live if we can. As soon as they're all played, we'll do a roundup, and then we're working on a few ideas and things into how we can make the final as epic as possible once that comes along. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you all next time. See you later.